Okay, I'm back. I was also really hurting my back on the previous video, so I've sort of gone a bit further backwards. So can see less of me, but I'm not hurting, which is always good. So, like I was explaining in the previous video, today is all about how we relate to other people and how we interact with other people and how other people interact with us. One of the things that is particularly important, and as a friend or just someone, you should at least be able to deal with a person with chronic illness if you're within their close circle when they have a bad day or a crisis. And it's not a very easy thing to do. One of the most common mistakes most people do when you have a chronic illness, particularly fibromyalgia, because you have some cognitive misfunctions, because you're in pain, because you're tired, is thinking that they know best. They know better than you because you're ill and you're not able to realize what's happening around you. No. I mean, unless I'm passed out on the floor and I'm unconscious or I'm tripping out or something like that, you don't know best. You don't know what's best for me. I do, because I live with this. So if I tell you my head hurts, shut up, maybe I was a bit blunt, but the message is shut up. You talking is not helping me right now. If I tell you I'm in a lot of pain and you force me to move, or you try to hug me and the hug is too tight or something like that, you're not helping me. You're causing me more pain. And my reaction is not going to be a particularly pleasant one. I'm a fairly direct person anyway, like I am, in case you haven't noticed that already. I can be quite blunt, but I think anyone with a chronic illness, when we are aggravated, particularly when you're in pain, pain really clouds the way you deal with other people. You cannot be as subtle or as sensitive or sensible as you may normally be. So a lot of our reactions may be quite abrasive, not because we want to be abrasive with you, but because we are in so much pain and so much other stuff is going around. Moderating our response can be really hard. And it's no excuse for maybe saying things a bit more harshly than we would like to. Trust me, as soon as we realize how we act, we're gonna feel like an absolute wreck. So again, don't necessarily take it personal. Just accept that maybe the way you were doing things wasn't really coming through very helpful, and we just simply didn't have any other way of telling you stop doing that, because it's not helping anyone. And at the end of the day, what we all want is your help, but it has to be the right type of help. So like I said, don't judge and don't decide what they have to do or what is best for them unless that's explicitly what they've told you, or unless they are in no position of making their own decisions. Because otherwise, what you're gonna cause is an emotional resent and a feeling of they don't understand me, that is gonna make things very hard in the future. So just be mindful of that as a human being that may be in the vicinity of someone not just with fibromyalgia but with chronic illness. I know it can be hard to sort of interiorize all of this information and know how to deal with someone in our position, but just take a step back. It's always best if you ask, what do you need or what should I do, than just do something because you think you can or you should. That's one thing and one aspect where people can help. And I keep on receiving messages and comments asking, what can I do to help? Well, this is definitely something you can do to help. Even if you can't understand, you can listen. So listen and ask how you can help, because we can always give you pointers. Okay? Don't take it upon yourself to do all the hard work. It's not your illness. Sure, you can help, but at the end of the day, we know how it works, or at least how it works for us. So just keep that in mind. And for the people suffering with fibromyalgia, just realize that this happens. And again, without wanting to be mean to anyone, some people are no good in a situation of emergency, and having them around you may just make things worse. And again, that's no harsh intention towards you, the sufferer, or you, the person who's trying to help and instead is just panicking. But it becomes a loop. If someone is not well and then you start panicking, and what you're doing to help them is just stressing them out more, then the stress of the general situation is going to end up affecting both parties, and that's not going to be good for anyone. So, I mean, obviously, not all of us can remain calm or know exactly what to do in these type of situations. So, own up to your own reactions. If you know you're the type of person who really struggles to help when stuff like that goes down, just just accept it and be honest about it and tell them, I'm sorry, I'm gonna be no good at this, and just step out of it. No one is gonna be mad at you for accepting your own limitations. It's probably gonna be better if you are very clear and honest with the person who may be affected by this situation than you and them being in this position where the general stress of the situation is actually just damaging your relationship, whatever this may be. So, and at the same time, people with fibromyalgia and other chronic illnesses, if you have someone who is constantly around you and when there is an emergency of any type, they just make you feel worse. I'm sorry, but you're gonna have to tell them. Unless you want more stress added to your situation, obviously. I mean, you're responsible for your own actions. You decide. I'm not gonna tell you how to live your life, but you will. That will be the fair thing to do. Tell them, you suck at this. Okay, maybe then say it like that. But that's how unfortunately I've had to tell some people because they just wouldn't get it, that what they were doing was actually making things worse. So without necessarily needing to get to the point of fact and pleasant, try to have these conversations, and don't be shy of expressing how people's reactions and attitudes toward you affect you, because remember, you know it does have an impact on your health, and it does have an impact on how you relate to other people. So it is your right to have these communications with people in your circle. You should all be comfortable with it. You shouldn't have to hide or pretend that it's okay. So just keep that in mind, both patients and supporters alike. Simple like that. And at the same time, don't hold any grudges for people who decide it's just too much. For some people, it will be too much, and that's fine. Some things are too much for us. Some things are gonna be too much for them. Just It's just how it is. Unfortunately, it's sad, and I've lost many friends for things like this. Like, they just couldn't take my illness or the issues that came with my illness. They just thought it was too intense, too much stuff to be aware of, too many things happening, and it's nothing you can do. It's just what it is. You're never gonna please everyone, so don't try to. It's gonna be hurtful, sure, but luckily you may have some people around you who will see things differently and who will be able to support you and listen to you and help you out in the days that you need it, and be there for you and understand what you're going through and the variety of emotions that you're trying to manage when your flare happens, when your pain happens, or when just things generally hit you. It's not gonna be an easy journey, and that's something that everyone needs to understand. It's not gonna be easy, but it can be done. We just need to be more open about it. Yeah, that's that. And tricky subject here, but it's also the same with relationships, and I mean romantic relationships, casual relationships, marriages, all of that. I know the strain that having a chronic illness can put on a partner. It's not fun, and it can be really difficult for the other person to see what's happening to you, because you're in pain, you're fatigued. It's not fun, and whatever other side symptoms you may have, if it affects your life, your work life, your whatever, it can be really difficult for them to see this happening to you, and knowing that the ability they have to take that away from you is reduced. But remember, there are many other ways in which you can help each other. You just need to communicate. And if the other person is simply not willing to accommodate for what you need, that's not a matter of illness or not. If they can't accommodate or are not willing to accommodate for your needs, it's just not gonna work out, regardless of the illness. Sorry to break this to you, but it is a fact. You just need to keep in mind that simply because your personal circumstances are maybe a bit more convoluted than under other circumstances, this is gonna be perhaps a topic that comes up very often. And again, honesty and communicating and talking about it in a calm and as explicit and elaborate way as you can is really gonna make your life much easier. Then accept as well that there is actually a lot of people who may be willing to help. and may not see your illness as a problem. And you may not want to accept this to begin with, because a lot of people may have mistreated you. But that doesn't mean that the mistreatment that has come from the past is the reality for those who actually want to help you. And that is a really hard thing to accept when you have a chronic illness and when you have fibromyalgia, because all of this emotional damage causes this oversensitivity. It can affect your mental health. It can really have a bad impact in your health overall, particularly if you've been in a situation of isolation where people just haven't understood you. It can be really draining. It can be really hard. And it can be really difficult for us to let go of the past, because that's the only source of information that we have. Okay? People on the outside understand this. It's the only information that we know. If everyone that you've known in your life previously has reacted badly to you having a chronic illness, eh, I'm not saying obviously that's the ultimate truth, but it is a truth of your life and what you've experienced, and it's gonna leave some, you know, things lingering in your head. So you may be a bit more reticent, you may not be so willing to cooperate. You know, if you have someone or you know someone with this type of issue, I'm not gonna say call it out, as in accuse and say, you're doing this, because that's gonna seem like a really confrontational thing to do, and particularly with fibromyalgia, where your emotions can trigger other reactions, it's probably not going to end up very well. But if you notice something like this, put it across kindly and say, hey, you seem this or that. Is it got to do with this or whatever? Open that conversation channel in a way that is safe for the other person to open up. Because, like I said, this is not a very easy thing for us people with fibromyalgia or chronic illness to do, because of how our chronic illness affects our lives and how society sees us almost like outcasts, or think that a lot of people don't even think our illness is real. It doesn't really give you a lot of confidence on how other people are going to react to your situations. So just be brave enough for the other person, if they can't, to open up that conversation and tell them, I have noticed you do this, or is this something you would like to talk about, or here is my thoughts on the subject. Would you like to enlighten me or give me your point of view? Just try to make this an acceptable way of dealing with a problem, so then it's no longer a problem, or it's a work in progress, and maybe with your help the person with the illness can also work towards improving it, or at least they can be aware of it, and maybe they can change their own information bank to suit their new circumstances. It is hard, and I know that it can be quite heartbreaking for both ends when you're in a relationship of any type, seeing all of this happening. But it is a part of our life, and we can't deny it, unless you decide to become a loner with thousands of cats, um, which is fair enough. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but it is hard. So just really the best advice I have for all of this is talk honestly. Don't beat around the bush. Don't pretend things are not as bad as they are. Don't make it look like things can be better if you don't know if they can be better. Don't pretend that you can accept something if you can't, or if you can't deal with it, pretend that it's perfectly okay. Don't do that. With this type of illness, and particularly in this situation, things have to be as crystal clear as possible. Not just from an emotional point of view, but think that if we are having a bad day and our cognitive functions aren't recognizing things, we need things clear so there are no misunderstandings, because then the guilt that we're going to suffer is quite hard, and we don't want to feel like we've caused any miscommunications. So anyway, there are many, many, many more things that I could say about this, and it's hard, which is the reason probably why I've been a bit slow today trying to talk about all of this, but I just really wanted to put it out there. So yeah, hopefully you will help break the stigma. I'll see you in the next one.